So the Research and Development District, also known as RaDD, is a huge life science district that we developed between 2020 and 2024 in downtown San Diego on the Waterfront. It totals 1.7 million square feet. 1.5 million square feet of that is life science lab and office space. And then about 200,000 square feet is retail space, which is on the ground floor through the Paseo that runs from north to south through the site. So the history of the site goes back to the late 1800s. The site was formerly part of actually San Diego Bay, and with multiple wharfs extending across the property, there were some small buildings that were on piles along the western edge of the Pacific Highway. Around 1914, the site was reclaimed and using hydraulic filling methods. In the 1930s, the Navy came in and actually developed 7 buildings, and largely that was standing on the site up until most recent. There was some initial studies done that showed that there was some underground storage tanks, lots of pollution across the site, and some of the contaminants included lead, heavy metals, petroleum, hydrocarbons, VOCs, and PHAs. And then in 2017, a soil management plan and community health and safety plan was completed by SCS Engineers. In 2018, a work plan was developed to remove all those underground storage tanks, and that's essentially when the idea of a big development could start.
The biggest challenge of this project was just the massive size of it and how much soil and dirt we had to deal with. 8 city blocks with interconnecting streets, and when it started out, we were going down 30 to 45 feet deep across this entire property for the construction of the subterranean parking garages, and all that dirt that was removed had to get properly tested and characterized and disposed of. And what further complicated this project was that it used to be all part of San Diego Bay. The bay used to go all the way up to Pacific Highway, and at that time, before 1914, there were a couple of wharves that crossed the property, and it was a very big industrial hub with ships coming in and out. And there was actually quite a bit of contamination that was deposited at the bottom of the bay, things like coal and incinerator waste and other things that we discovered as we studied and dug down. So our job as environmental consultants was to test and characterize all this dirt before it got dug out, and characterize it as either heavily contaminated like recro waste, or lightly contaminated that could go to a local landfill, or even clean soil that can be reused on the open construction market. The incinerator waste that we found was below the Spreckles Brothers wharf, and there was also a railroad spur that went out from the Pacific Highway out onto the wharf. There was really a lot of incinerator waste that was very high in metals concentrations, because that's what's left behind after trash is burned. And it was more extensive than what we originally thought. And so as we were digging, we had this large pile of recreohazardous waste that had to be hauled off to Beatty, Nevada. And due to cost restrictions, we came up with an approach to use a subcontractor that works on shooting ranges called MT2 that treats the soil by lowering the leachability of the metals and the toxicity as well, so that we're actually able to lower the hazardous waste classification. So instead of hauling the soil to Beatty, Nevada, we were able to haul it to Arizona, but had we had more time, we could have actually probably kept it in a local landfill. But those efforts actually saved us about $1 million because of that approach. I would show up in the morning before work would start, before 7 a.m., and there was literally just a line of dump trucks going down the Pacific Highway. And I was honestly mortified because all those dump trucks had to be filled up, and we had to let all those trucks know what material they were holding and where they needed to go. So there was a lot of pressure to perform and get this job done.
Some of the key features of the project include curated retail along that Paseo on the ground floor. So 200,000 square feet of restaurants and retail are going to be opening about in a year, and maybe a little bit beyond that. We also have tenant suites that have dynamic glass that basically means the smart glass tints with the sun. So as the sun comes from the south over, the tint of the glass will tint automatically. We also have a park called Progress Park at the northwest corner. What used to be really inaccessible, non-accessible space to the public is now fully accessible. So we worked with Gensler Architects. They were the master architect across the project. SCS Engineers certainly was on the project long before we came about, working on all the environmental phases of the project with Manchester. We also worked with Turner Construction, who was phenomenal in getting the site actually developed for us and built. So those are the main partners that I can contribute to thanking for this project coming to fruition.
Yeah, it's an honor to be recognized, and really it goes back to the whole team effort. Just a lot of talented people coming from all kinds of different trades, and really it's this amazing, marvelous development that came out of it that I'm still very impressed by.